ever wondered what the axis of resistance is and how it's challenging Israeli occupation? The Axis of Resistance is a political alliance that spans across the Middle East, united by their opposition to Israeli occupation and Western influence in the region. Key players include Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthi rebels, among others. These groups share a common goal: to challenge and resist what they perceive as unjust Israeli occupation. Israel, on the other hand, has been involved in a long-standing conflict over territory and sovereignty, leading to the occupation of regions such as the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. The Axis of Resistance sees this occupation as a violation of human rights and international law. They argue that the people of these territories have the right to self-determination, and they aim to restore this right through various means, including armed resistance. Their operations against Israeli forces and Western backers are numerous and ongoing, with each member of the alliance contributing in their unique ways. But it's crucial to understand this. Their actions aren't just random acts of aggression. They are part of a larger, more complex political struggle, rooted in decades of history and conflict. Now that we understand the players and their motivations, let's dive into the specific operations carried out on January 29, 2024. On January 29th, two significant players in the Axis of Resistance, Al-Qassam Brigades and Al-Quds Brigades, carried out various operations against Israeli forces. The Al-Qassam Brigades initiated their operations by shelling Tel Aviv with a barrage of rockets, the first such attack in weeks. They also targeted an Israeli military D-9 bulldozer surrounded by regime soldiers with Yasin 105 shells in the Jura al-Akkad area west of Khan Yunis city in the southern Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, the Al-Quds Brigades were not to be outdone. They launched rockets, heavy mortar shells, and Badr 1 IRAM rockets at the main logistical support point used by Israeli troops for vehicle maintenance in the Sudanese area northwest of Gaza. They also engaged in fierce clashes with Israeli regime soldiers in Khan Yunis city, using machine guns and anti-armor shells. Additionally, a group of Israeli snipers entrenched in a building in the neighborhood west of Khan Yunis city fell victim to a guided missile from the Al-Quds Brigades. They also blew up a Merkava tank with a Thaqib barrel-high explosive device around the Hassan Salama Mosque west of Khan Yunis city. Israeli regime soldiers and their vehicles in the central and western axes of Khan Yunis city found themselves under a hail of mortar shells from the Al-Quds Brigades. These operations by Al-Qassam Brigades and Al-Quds Brigades demonstrated their capability and determination to challenge Israeli occupation. January 29th also saw significant operations from other Axis of Resistance groups, including the Mujahideen Brigades, Martyrs of Al-Aqsa Brigades, and Martyr Omar al-Qasim forces. The Mujahideen Brigades launched a series of rocket attacks against Israeli forces in the northwest region of Gaza City. These attacks were aimed at disrupting the concentration of Israeli troops and creating a state of disarray within their ranks. Meanwhile, the Martyrs of Al-Aqsa Brigades were equally active, engaging in intense clashes with the Israeli forces across various locations in the Gaza Strip. One of their significant operations involved targeting an Israeli military vehicle with RPGs in the western axis of Khan Yunis city, located in the southern Gaza Strip. Simultaneously, the Martyr Omar al-Qasim forces demonstrated their resilience in the face of adversity. They engaged in various clashes with the Israeli army, notably around the vicinity of Al-Shifa Hospital, west of Gaza City. In another operation, they launched an RPG attack on a regime military vehicle, further intensifying the pressure on the Israeli forces. These groups also shelled Israeli military positions in Khan Yunis city with heavy mortars, causing direct hits and inflicting heavy losses. Their use of machine guns, hand grenades, anti-personnel and anti-armor rockets resulted in significant casualties among the Israeli forces. The operations by these resistance groups further underscored their resolve to challenge Israeli occupation. Hezbollah, a key player in the Axis of Resistance, also carried out a series of operations on January 29th. Diving right into the specifics, we begin with the eastern sector. At around 11:45 local time, the Metula site was targeted with apt weaponry. Following this, at approximately 1:30 in the afternoon, Hezbollah set their sights on Israeli soldiers stationed at Honin Castle. Then, at 3:45, the Sumaka site was under attack. As the evening rolled in, at 6 o'clock, Israeli soldiers on Al-Taihat Hill found themselves in the line of fire. Lastly, at 8:20, Hezbollah honed in on Israeli soldiers at Ramim barracks, using Falak rockets. Not to be outdone, the western sector also saw its share of operations. At around midnight, the Barkat Risha site was targeted with Birken rockets. Simultaneously, the Hadab Yarin site was under attack. Then, as the day broke at 8 in the morning, the Beranit barracks was subjected to a barrage of Birken rockets. These operations carried out by Hezbollah not only aimed to destabilize the Israeli forces, but also to assert their presence in the region. By targeting military sites and soldiers, Hezbollah sent a clear message of resistance and defiance against the Israeli occupation. The impact of these operations reverberates through the ongoing conflict, stirring up a whirlwind of reactions and counteractions. Through these operations, Hezbollah reinforced its commitment to challenging Israeli occupation, thereby contributing to the broader goals of the Axis of Resistance. The operations carried out by the Axis of Resistance on January 29, 2024, demonstrate the ongoing resistance against Israeli occupation. From the Al-Qassam Brigade's barrage of rockets over Tel Aviv to Hezbollah's targeted attacks on Israeli soldiers, these operations exhibit the tenacity and resolve of these groups. These acts of defiance not only signify their refusal to bow to the Israeli occupation, but also their determination to challenge it, potentially escalating the conflict further. The implications of these operations are manifold, shaping the trajectory of this conflict while also influencing the global discourse around it. As the Axis of Resistance continues its operations, the world watches to see how this conflict will evolve. Today we've taken a closer look at the events of January 29th, but the story is far from over. Stay tuned for more updates on this ongoing conflict.